Heute Abend ist Klaus da. Klaus zeichnet die Veranstaltung auf. Nein, Klaus streamt live ins Netz das Tasting heute. Das heißt, es gibt auch ein paar Menschen, die schauen uns zu von außerhalb. Und Klaus macht hauptsächlich Bilder von der Seite hier zu uns. Also ihr seid nicht zwingend im Bild, aber trotzdem, wenn irgendeiner von euch sagt, ich will auf gar keinen Fall auch nur im Ansatz im Bild sein, verstehe ich sehr gut, weil ich bin da auch sehr kritisch selbst. Von daher einfach nur kurz aufzeigen, wir merken uns das und der Klaus kümmert sich darum, dass das nicht ins World Wide Web gestreamt wird. Aber wir machen dann so schon einen Balken drüber oder sowas und schreiben McKellen in den Balken oder sowas. Weiß ich nicht. Irgendjemand? Nein? Okay.
Kleiner Tipp, wer Fragen stellt, könnte dann im Bild zu sehen sein.
Das ist gut. Ansonsten findet ihr euer Wasser, glaube ich, so an den Stühlen. Das sollte so sein. Die Kollegen gehen später rum, das kennt ihr alle schon, und schenken dann aus. Wir haben jetzt so 2,5 Stunden vielleicht eingeplant für das Tasting. Wir werden sehen, 2 bis 2,5 Stunden mindestens wird es sicherlich dauern. Im Anschluss wird noch mal kurz Zeit sein, dass ihr auch von Willi euch eine Flasche unterschreiben lassen könnt, sofern ihr das wollt. Vielleicht noch ein, zwei die private Fragen stellen, bevor wir dann wieder los müssen, denn morgen ist tatsächlich schon wieder eine andere Veranstaltung. Wir fahren morgen früh nach Hamburg. Und auch nochmal so als kleinen Hinweis, es ist relativ viel Aufwand, auch Flaschen zu unterschreiben, und wir wollen auf jeden Fall, dass nur Flaschen unterschrieben werden, die hier heute oder irgendwann hier erworben worden sind. Nicht das, was ihr vielleicht noch aus Tüten mitbringt. Wäre nicht fair denen gegenüber, die in der Schlange stehen und warten und sagen, ich habe aber heute jetzt gekauft. Also das nicht, sage ich nur deswegen, weil es schon Schlangen gab, wo tütenweise Sachen angeschleppt worden sind. Das ist dann immer ein bisschen... Das ist immer ein bisschen blöd. Versteht ihr aber bestimmt. Und so viel nur zu den Techniken. That was some technical information about the tasting tonight. And I think Klaus is now ready and on air, so we can start it again. And again, a warm welcome to you, everybody, to be here in the GlenAllachie tasting. And a very, very warm welcome to our star guest tonight, Billy Walker. We did already a couple of tastings here together, and I'm very thankful, Billy, that you take your time and that you travel here to do a tasting with this crowd, with us here at Scotia Spirit and in Cologne. And I know it's a lot of effort, all the travel, and I know you're very, very very busy man, and that you take the time to do these tastings here in my little shop is a big, big honor. I really appreciate that. And so thank you again for being here. And we're looking forward now to a fantastic tasting with 8 whiskies. I will do most of the talking. No.
What a shame.
No. Billy will do that. And I think let's start with the tasting. Lineup is here. We agreed to start today with the 9-year-old Fino cask. We might do during the tasting one or twice a little break, and a break means not running out, and you have the opportunity to ask questions. I have a mic here. I go around, and you can ask questions if you like. And maybe at the end of the tasting we do a last round with questions, and then we head to the shop or to the bar as you wish. So and now we start with the first whiskey, the 9-year-old Fino. But maybe before we pour the whiskey, Billy wants to introduce the company more. And
well, I really don't want to talk a lot about the company. Well, first of all, thank you for coming.
I think Klaus would be happy if you're standing here.
Because I can't afford camera people, so
you want me to stand here?
Sit here if you don't mind. Because
well, listen, I've been sitting all day.
Well, you can stand here as well.
Do you want to have the mic or not? You can decide yourself.
I don't think I need the mic. Can you hear me?
Yes. Well, I'm happy to switch that off because it's
okay. Can I stand here then?
Complicating things for me as well.
Okay.
If you stand in front of your stool, everything's perfect.
Okay.
So this would be.
a little bit quiet here, so
I-
maybe can you make this the microphone louder?
I promise you,
Benutzt es oder nicht. Wenn er es
I-
benutzt,
I
dann ist es
pro-
laut genug. Und
I
wenn er es
promise
nicht
you
benutzt,
it
dann
will
geht's
not be
nicht.
quiet. It will not be quiet.
Okay.
And my suspicion is, as the evening goes on, you guys will not be quiet either, and that's okay. So listen, it's an interest.
Billy, if you can just stand over here, that would be perfect. You don't have to need the stool, but if you stand here, I can see you. If you don't,
Okay,
I,
that's maybe not so good
yeah,
good thing to see me, but
Oh, that's perfect.
look, it's a really interesting choice of expressions tonight. But before we launch into the actual start of the tasting, I just want to say what I want to try and achieve tonight is to explain why some of these remarkable tastes that we can experience during the evening, where do they come from? Are there any chemists here tonight? Okay. Is there kind of at front? Are you an organic chemist? Okay, you're both.
I was into photographic chemistry, and this is not used anymore.
You know, so it's really important, you know, flavour. Actually tasting a whiskey is complicated. Tasting anything is complicated because if you're trying to identify some of these quite actually complicated flavours, your palate's speaking to your brain and saying, do I recognise this? And it will only come up, well, let's say we're looking for pears, and that's a possibility, orchard fruit. Unless you've actually tasted a pear, the palate will say, don't understand this. So there's a lot of very interesting flavours in whiskey. Where do they come from? Essentially, they come from the cask. Now, when we make whiskey,
We, since I have the shop, I always did the tastings only with one glass, and it works really well. And sometimes I have guests over, guest speakers, and they are wondering how is it possible with one glass, but it works really well. I never did the setup of the glasses last 12 years, and everybody's happy with it.
Listen, it's easier.
And it's easier when you do, at the weekends, Saturdays, we do 4 tastings. So it's easier.
Every Saturday. Mm-hmm. Well done. It's a challenge. Thank you. Just a small amount. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Small one. Thank you.
Would you like to have a fresh glass for each whiskey, or are you using the same glass? How do you prefer?
I think it'll be okay.
Very good. Good man.
But yeah, you have a spare glass here if you want to pour something.
So the first one we're tasting has been the final cask it was in was a Fino cask. Why Fino? Well, the whiskey started the journey in. Can you hear me okay at the back? Yeah. Started the journey in American barrels. So the American barrels will contribute things like treacle, toffee, honey, butterscotch, honey. These are given. That's a layer of flavours that you will definitely pick up. The Fino's interesting in a sense that our impression was that the Fino would actually give a drier concept to the whiskey. In reality, in my experience anyway, that isn't the case. It's giving you it complements beautifully with the contribution from the American casks. Of course, it doesn't have the big kind of dark chocolate mocha that the sherry casks will give you, but it's bringing a kind of grapey notes, musty notes. But it hasn't overwhelmingly dried the whiskey. The whiskey is still a relatively sweet whiskey. This is at 48%. It's a good strength to bottle at. The reason we don't bottle anything under 46%, and there's a technical reason for that. We don't want to chill the whiskey in terms of filtration. So if we keep the whiskey above 46, 48%, even if you put the whiskey into a very cold environment, it won't throw a haze and it won't throw a precipitate. So it's a very, very stable strength to be drinking at. It also, interestingly, I think, tests your palate a little bit. It's asking a few more questions. But if you want to add water, add water. Wouldn't recommend it, but hey, oh.
Klaartje.
Interesting. It's not mainstream GlenAllachie. It's not Bimfey sherry. This is kind of quite light sherry style, but it's not dry. So it would have been in American barrels for about 6 years, and the last years of its life would have been in Fino casks. Certainly hogsheads. Better size of cask for sherry. Any thoughts?
How long did it stay in the sherry flask?
3 or 4 years.
Is this some kind of a very aggressive, like oak direction? Like it's very oak, like almost that, freshly cut oak in the nose?
The oak influence will be significant. What you expect from oak is, of course, you will get kind of green wood notes from it. But essentially, if it's in a good cask, let's say all of the whiskey that we mature, all the casks we use, will only either be brand new casks, American casks, or they will be first fill ex-bourbon casks. So I don't think there's been any virgin casks in this one. I think it started life in fresh American barrels. So you are going to get oaky notes. And what does that mean? In my terms, it's kind of honey, vanilla, butterscotch. But then probably a bit of, if you are picking, it's probably coming from the kind of clove notes, the nutmeg notes, the spicy notes. It's probably not. It's probably a spicy note you're picking up.
I felt this one a little bit unusual because it's quite sweet, but still a Fino. And usually you expect from a Fino more drier notes, but I think there's a lot of sweetness in it.
Yeah, our anxiety was that the Fino would overwhelm the influence of the American casks. So we watched that. We followed the development very carefully, so that we could think we could capture the sweet spot. But it didn't overwhelm. It was progressively just maturing along very nicely.
It was my favorite out of this 3 or 4, the Gratamaco, the Fino, and the others.
Yeah, I like
Amontillado, I think, was vivid, and that one I liked most.
Amontillado was more challenging.
Yeah. That's really nice to drink. So it's a good opener also for tonight,
Sure.
but it's so easy to drink.
But it's in the kind of left side of the flavour spectrum. As we go through this, the flavour profile will become stronger and more interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah, true.
Any thoughts? Any other thoughts? Customer's always right.
Just a question, how do you decide to store it either just 4 years or maybe 6 or 7 years in a Fino cask?
I think it was the Fino casks were a kind of a step into the dark. We weren't quite sure where the journey was going. We were surprised that we could take it to 4 years, but actually we think we can take it much longer than that, and you will reach another sweet spot. And the challenge then for the blender is this the end of the journey for the Fino, or can it go on to another few years? And the reality is, of course, it can go on to another few years, because I mean, one of the remarkable things about the maturation of whiskey, and I remember the industry many years ago, maybe quite recently in fact, one of the very big companies had as a strap line that age matters, and that was until they thought it didn't matter. But actually, age does matter, and we'll talk more about that as the evening goes on. But what's happening during the aging process is that the strength of the whiskey in the barrel is dropping by about 0.4% of a degree of alcohol every year. And that might seem just, okay, that's a happening, but it's not, because as the strength is falling, the solution characteristic of the whiskey is changing. So let's say it starts at 60 and it goes down to 55. At 60% alcohol, the whiskey is saying to some of the chemicals in the wood, I want you, I can take you into solution. You're very interesting. You can dissolve in me. When it goes to 50, it's then talking to the wood and saying, suddenly you're becoming interesting. You can come into the whiskey now because you can be soluble in the whiskey. And that's why there's so many unique things happening during the maturation process. And once you get these flavor compounds actually into the whiskey, then they start interacting with each other. And for an old whiskey, one of the kind of conversation that goes on with blenders all the time, if you didn't know the age of a whiskey, what would be the litmus test to tell you it's a young whiskey or an old whiskey? One of them is the taste of pineapple. If you can taste pineapple in the whiskey, something interesting's happened there. It's going on. It's been maturing for a long time. And what is happening is that some of the, there's no chemists here tonight, sorry. But there are things called organic acids, or long chain organic acids, that interact, that are esterified with the alcohol in the whiskey. They form a thing called esters. And there are three compounds. There's ethyl ectanoate, heptanoate, hexanoate. And these are if you're picking up, let's say, mango or tropical fruits or pomegranate or pineapple in whiskey, these are the chemicals, these are the flavour components that are delivering that kind of taste. And that only happens over a long period of time. I'm sure I was answering a question there, or did I just go on a rant? So what's happening in maturation is so interesting. And you could, look, I'm often asked, is blending, is it an art or a science? And in many ways, it's experience and instinct. But if you understand the chemistry, the expectation of what you're doing will happen, and the chemistry will explain why you thought it would happen. I know there was a question there. Not sure I answered it. But this is a start, and we started with this one because we felt it was at one side, at one end of the spectrum. And as we go through this journey, tasting journey, there are some remarkable experiences tonight. I have to point out to these two, the Tish that we're going to taste tonight, remarkable because of the combination of the woods. One with chinkapin, which is an American oak. It's grown only in Missouri. Unique characteristics is it's herbal, licorice notes, anise notes, and for a long time the whiskey industry was very, very nervous about using these casks. They weren't quite sure how they could handle them, what the experience would be. And we have bottled, and I think you're going to taste one that's a single chinkapin cask tonight, but we were comfortable. We wanted to actually balance the kind of herbal notes, the anise notes, even licorice notes, with some PX, sweet, almost Christmas cake notes, and it's a fantastic combination. The second one, the second Tish, is a combination of Scottish virgin oak and Oloroso sherry cask. And in both cases, it's 50-50 in terms of the percentage we're using. The Scottish virgin oak is it's a bit like Scottish people. They're difficult to work with. They're small. They've got a lot of kind of knots. The coopers hate them because it's very hard to saw them. They're difficult to work with. In fact, the coopers that we work with, there's only one cooper, a very older guy, who can actually work with Scottish oak. What's special about them? They're remarkably spicy. And the things I was talking about earlier about the contribution for things like eugenol and isoeugenol, you're going to get nutmeg, you're going to get cloves, you're going to get ginger, just fantastic, wonderful, wonderful spicy notes, and they balance beautifully with the Oloroso. So that's what we're going to look forward to.
But first we go to this one?
Yeah.
Lineup?
10-year-old.
10-year-old batch 12.
Batch 12. Strength?
59.7.
Okay.
Are you ready for 60%?
Sure.
You mentioned at the beginning that the wood is basically made with the different parts and so forth. And then you said later, earlier, well, it's so certain part the science. So how far do you go with the scientific part? If you decide on, I'm going to use, for example, Scottish, Hungarian oak. So is it like, I'm going to take a look at the wood in detail. I'm going to do a deep analysis. What kind of wood composition do I have? What can I expect of this? Or is there also a little bit of, well, this sounds like an interesting idea. I'm going to try this out. We will see where we go.
A bit of both. Look, from a lot of experience, we know the full contribution, the different style of contribution we can get from, let's say, Scottish oak, American oak, and then there's a variety of American oaks. We have Gariana, we've got Chinkapin, we've got Appalachian, we've got Ozark. all different, and they're all really different because of the spicy notes they deliver and the intensity of the spice. For example, without question, Scottish oak is the most spicy. So somewhere in the lignans there is a significant contribution coming.
But it's not like you go before, take a look at Camden to do.
We don't look at the chemistry of it. No, we.
Can expect it to be more spicy or.
Experience now tells us yes. And the next one would be French virgin oak, fantastically interesting, spicy. Another remarkably good oak is Russian oak. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of Russian virgin oak maturing. Can't use it, can't mention it.
Because I remember 2 years ago you said, asked about the biggest fail that it was Russian oak.
Ah.
So did you get it to work?
No, it's working okay. The failure is that we can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Japanese oak, Mizunara oak is fantastic. Different style of flavour. You're going to get things like umami, incense, and we're looking at Mongolian oak because we think Mongolian oak will be similar to Japanese oak. We brought some oak in from Colombia in South America. Now you can imagine bringing something from Colombia in South America. The immigration people are very interested in anything that comes from Colombia. And yeah, it took a long time to clear that particular consignment. But there is so much interesting things that we can do with different styles of casks. Sorry. Yeah.
I have a question because I don't know a lot about making the barrels. Is the barrel made from one tree, or can it be mixed? One oak tree was from one side, or two trees from this special area, or do they mix?
They wouldn't mix them from different areas, but they don't necessarily have to. They have to come from an oak tree, of course. They have to come from an oak tree of the same genus. But it's a good question because one of the really important things about creating a cask that's going to give you the kind of extraction delivery is how you dry the cask. Now we don't use any oak wood any casks that have been artificially dried by an oven. We want them to be naturally dried and probably for about 48 months. And what is happening during that period? What's the difference between drying in an oven, drying naturally in the atmosphere? As well as drying, the casks are also experiencing being wet by rain falling on it. And the rain washes quite a lot of the tannins out. It also creates a kind of layer on the cask that allows bacteria to start working in the cask. So you've got bacteria creating enzymes that actually then also start entering the cask and breaking down some of the structure of the cask into chemicals or compounds, flavour compounds that we can extract. So the whole process of cutting the wood, drying the wood, preparing the cask, deciding the level of toasting, deciding the level of charring, and then actually going on to maturing it. It sounds simple, but the reality is that it's fascinating.
And it's from different areas.
Yeah.
Is there, because different areas, maybe one in the mountain, one more on the desert, or near the desert, because not in the desert there's none. So because there's different conditions of weather and different soil, is there the wood, the outcome of the wood for the whiskey, is it very different?
Yes.
Or it must be, yeah.
In the word, yes.
Yeah, because of the influence of the weather and so on.
Now we actually looked at, particularly looked at Siberian oak. We wanted to take oak from the same kind of latitude as Hokkaido in Japan, and we reckon that would be there might be a chance that it's similar to Mizunara. In fact, it was quite different, but it was sensationally good. And it's the Russian oak I'm talking about is from Siberia. On the other hand, we also looked at Mongolian oak to see, well, why are we trying to compare with them? Mizunara is incredibly expensive. To buy a Mizunara cask costs us £3,500 for one empty cask. £3,500. So, you know, interestingly, I was at one of the Japanese distilleries a few months ago. The blender's a good friend, and I noticed that they actually were using Mongolian oak, trying to use Mongolian oak instead of Mizunara oak. Now, Mongolian oak is cheaper, but it's only it's £800 a cask.
But will they declare it in Japan?
Well, interestingly, Peter, if you look at the botanical notes on Mizunara, it's called Quercus mongolica, and the oak from the Chinese part of Mongolia is also Quercus mongolia. So there's some kind of similarity between the genus. Have we seen it yet? We see some characteristics from Mongolian oak that's similar to Mizunara, but they're not the same. But they have some nice characteristics, and I'm sure that in 12 months I might be able to share something about that with you too. So,
did you say month?
12 months. 12 months. Listen, there would be a lot of work. They've been with us. These Mongolian friends, casks, have been with us for about 4 or 5 years now, and they are developing. I mean, what are we looking for? We're looking for, remarkably, Mizunara casks have got a remarkable contribution in terms of flavour, and in some cases, I mean, they can absolutely overcook. So you don't want to be in Mizunara casks too long. And what are you getting from? You're getting things like incense notes, umami, almost meaty notes, sandalwood notes. They are totally different from any oak that we have in Europe or in the United States. Are they better? They're different. And they do bring some unusual flavour characteristics to the whisky that probably the industry, the Scotch whisky industry, has resisted using in the past because they didn't fall into line with the concept of what is Scotch whisky. We're now, I think some of the private companies, and that's one of the great things of being a private independent company, you have a freedom to do things. You know, if, for example, if I was the owner of Johnnie Walker, my absolute obsession is consistency. It has to be this. Every batch we make has to be the same. If you move away from it, somebody will pick it up and they'll be in your case. Our objective is for every batch to be different, but better. They don't have that freedom. They have to be the same.
And is it the same case with the 10-year-old, which is coming from batch to batch and now batch 12?
Well, our ambition, Peter, is that every batch should be at some point better. And we think probably, as with all of the core range of GlenAllachie, we think we've probably reached about 90% of where we want to be. The last 10% in terms of quality is, of course, quite a big challenge. But we know what the building blocks are. We know the things that can take us on to the next part of that journey. The problem is once you get the next 10%, you still only think you've done 90%, so there's another 10% to pursue. And you know what? That's how it should be. You should always be in the front foot. You should always be ambitious, and you should always be pushing the envelope a little bit. And you know, if we could retrace our steps 30 years ago, Scotch whisky using things like Mizunara, Scottish oak, French oak, Ukrainian oak, Russian oak, unheard of. So if people will tell you that, I've been in this industry a long time, so I can say with some authority what I'm about to say. We're making whisky today a lot better than we ever made it 50 years ago. But people will tell you, no, the old days were better. It's not true. So the 10-year-old, strength?
59.7.
Listen, I urge you not to add water to this. Drink it as it is. Our kind of, our commitment to ourselves is that anything we put in the bottle should be comfortable in your palate. and maybe even challenge your palate a little bit more than, say, 43, 46, or 48% would do. The construction of this particular blend is a combination of PX Oloroso, and I think in this one it was about 2-to-1 PX Oloroso. In addition, there is some American virgin oak, and there's a very small amount of red wine casks. And I'll tell you our thinking behind that is that the PX sweet sherry is going to give you typically Christmas cake, rich Christmas cake notes. The Oloroso will give you many things, but particularly it'll give you mocha and dark chocolate. The American virgin oak is going to give you things like honey, butterscotch, orchard fruits. And the red wine actually is to bring some tannin influence, a kind of concentrated tannin influence into the mouthfeel to actually give you a smoother mouthfeel and a fuller mouth experience.
How long does it take for you to create such batch?
Well, we're creating really from day one. You know, we look at Sanj, of course, the most important part of the evening, drinking it. You know, when we fill the casks, we're looking to see what journey they're going to go on, but we'll be looking at 400 or 500 casks every other day. So we know the development of where the casks are. We know what, and sometimes you look and you find something that's remarkably good, and the temptation then is to say, we'll take that early. That's a bad result. Let it go. Let's see where the journey goes. So every cask, and we've got something like 60, 70,000 casks in the warehouse. We have a record of what is happening in every one of these casks. So we know this might be for 10-year-old, or maybe we should leave this till 15, or maybe 21, because it can continue. It's got enough legs in the whiskey that it can go on a long journey.
Do you decide all this decision, or do you do all these decisions for yourself?
Yes. I don't trust anybody else. That's the blender's allowed to be like that. No water. What do you think? Comfortable in the mouth? Or are you tempted to add some water?
That's my favorite. My favorite cake from my mom, long time ago. She baked my childhood. She baked a cake which we know as Schwarzwälder Creme-Torte. Still my favorite, but I don't get it often. My sister is able to do it. And this kind of cake.
Wenn man es mal drückt, geht es ganz aus. Oh. Man muss es kurz drücken. Jetzt kann man es wieder verstehen. Also hier, aber es gibt auch, glaube ich,
Schwarzwälder Creme-Torte, Black Forest cake, or if I translate it, and it's a dark dough, and then you have cream, you have sherries, you have a dark dough, you have sherries and cream again, and you add a lot of Kirschwasser. This makes this German schnapps from and this. And sometimes my mom maybe added a little bit too much of this schnapps, this Kirschwasser, and so this whiskey, the total of this whiskey remembers me to that cake from my mom back the day.
Well, that's kind of it's either a consequence of the design or it's how we designed it. Take your pick.
Do you know the cake of my mom?
No, but I'm salivating.
And definitely, I would drink it neat.
Yeah. Okay. Of course, if you want to add water, if it's a better experience, why not? But a kind of promise is that anything we put in the bottle should be comfortable in the palate. You shouldn't really need to add water, but listen, if you want to add water, add water. Why not? But you're missing something. Interesting. It's 10 years old, and I've already alluded to how important, in my opinion, how age, if the casks are managed properly and the casks are of good quality, how important the evolution of age is to whiskey. And 10 years is a good starting point. And interestingly, just as an aside, I bought the GlenAllachie distillery in October, the 3rd of October 2017, the same date as my wife's birthday. But it wasn't bought for my wife, and I'm not sure she was all that happy that it was bought. And we've promised anything that we've made now from that date, we've promised that we will not bring anything to the market until it's 10 years. So the first GlenAllachie that we'll have taken full responsibility from the field, distillate, maturation to bottle will be in the 3rd of October 2027. Put that date in your diary.
So we should put a day in the diary for next year. In autumn, then we get the Mongolian cask from you.
Yes.
And the year after that, we also mark the date. So next 2 years are so settled.
But actually, it raises a very interesting question. Is it easier to build a distillery and start from scratch, or is it easier to buy a distillery with mature whiskey that goes all the way, in our case, goes all the way to almost 50 years? Personally, I think it's less of a challenge to buy a mature distillery, but the advantages are significantly more. But there are challenges, and one of the challenges is you've inherited somebody else's concept. And certainly in almost every case, when we bought BenRiach, GlenDronach, GlenAllachie, Tober, of you have to define the personality you want to create, and that starts with the new fill spirit, the style of wood, the category of cask you want to mature it in. Then you have the challenge of the historic personality that you've inherited, and you've got to actually equilibrate between the two. And the challenge for us was we wanted to make GlenAllachie, in essence, in the core range, a kind of really muscular sherry style whiskey. And it's not quite what we inherited from Chivas. It was, of course there were a number of sherry casks, but it's taken us almost 8 years, 8 years to move the whiskey from one style of cask into the kind of style of cask that we are comfortable and confident will deliver the kind of personality that we want from the whiskey that we're making just now. And 2027 will determine if we're correct.
Did you ever think about to change something on the stills?
We did change something on the still. When we took the distillery over, we realised that the whiskey we were inheriting was probably a little bit too light for the kind of journey, the kind of maturation journey, the wood style that we were going to use. And so we dropped the actual cut-off point quite a bit. So the whiskey is much more muscular. In chemistry terms, it's more higher alcohols, it's more organic acids in the actual new fill spirit. And these things are great to work with. They will deliver the kind of additionality in terms of flavour that we're looking for.
Okay, but you never thought about to cool down some upper parts of the stills or the light arm or something?
No, we have done a number of changes in the last few months, not unplanned, But you know, we've done a lot of creative stuff. For example, and one very big thing we did almost immediately, we moved from short ferment or mid-term fermentation. Fermentation will take about, for a fermentation to complete, takes about 50 hours. But there's still a little bit of activity. We moved to long fermentation virtually immediately. You know, we're doing fermenters that are somewhere between 140 and 180 hours. What are we expecting from that? There are two things that happen. One is actually very practical, and when you're taking the wash from the fermenter to the wash still, at 52 hours, it's still a little bit active, and there's solids in the wash, and these solids can bubble up into the neck of the still. You don't want that to be there, because then they will burn on, and then you'll start getting some terpene notes. You'll get some off odors, some sulfur notes, unwelcome. So long fermentation is totally, the fermentation is complete, it's benign, so you're taking the wash to still, it's very relaxed. So the actual distillery technician is a much easier job. That's a practical reason. The second one is a flavour concept. We want the fermentation to complete, then we rouse it and introduce some oxygen. And have I proven this to be the case? Only from an organoleptic point of view, but we're looking for more oxidation to happen. So things like some of the aldehydes are maybe a little bit unwelcome. You're encouraging these to be oxidized to organic acids. And you're hoping that some esterification is taking place, so you'll get more floral notes, you'll get more fruity notes in the wash. Time will tell. But these are the kind of changes we have made. We haven't made them lightly, though. We've taken our time to think, will this work? What implications will it have? But we're very happy with long fermentation. What do you think? Is it okay?
So can you all hear us? Good? Or should we use a mic, or are you fine?
I think there's a bigger challenge understanding the Scottish accent, Peter.
We need to ask Klaus if he have some technical system to soften the accent.
Oh, Peter, why would we want to?
We don't add the title for British people. They have to go through it.
Very good.
I don't understand.
We're doing the 12-year-old.
The award winner. So how did you like the 10-year-old?
Very good.
Good.
It's interesting, we've kind of aligned the 10-year-old and the 12-year-old together. There is actually a conceited reason for doing that. In 2021, the 10-year-old won the best single malt in the world award at the most important competition. And this year, the 12-year-old also won the same award. And you know, for a small, of course, the blender, he gets all the credit, but it's a team thing. You know, what people do together, how we create things. And it's been fantastic, because in a very, very difficult time where there's lots and lots of headwinds out there, it's almost impossible to keep up with the demand for the 12-year-old. It's pretty good. So Peter, we want to pour the 12?
Yes, we do the 12.
And the 12, structurally, in terms of cask management, the 12-year-old is the big brother of the 10-year-old. It's PX, Oloroso, virgin oak casks, and a small amount of red wine casks. It's really continuing the journey from the 10 into the 12.
hier nochmal einen Verteilung. Das ist
Very well behaved audience. Very well behaved. Could all change.
Eigentlich aus ja, aber von Steiermark. Ja. Die nächste Grenze von mir ist Braunau. Wir fahren über der Fahrt.
Oh gut. Ja, ich finde den auch total lecker. Der ist so. Habe ich noch. Trinkt sich richtig gut. Ja. Ist auch ungewöhnlich, aber mich hat der von all diesen Finishes, da gab es ja diese Katamakos, wie sie alle hießen, ich fand den am besten. Deswegen habe ich ihn heute, also war meine Entscheidung, den reinzunehmen, weil ich den einfach toll finde.
Small. Thank you. Gone.
I mean, you had to tell them that it's almost impossible to keep up with the demand. Would you like to share the last rip of the bottle?
No, that's one I left, Peter.
Ah, okay.
Should we?
On top of that?
Yeah, sure.
You sure?
Good.
Why not? It's still a single malt. Habt ihr noch genug Wasser? Ist jetzt noch da, ja. Soll ich euch was hier abnehmen?
So, the next one in the journey is the 12-year-old that I've said where we are with in terms of international recognition. Great year. 12 years for a whiskey is a fantastic kind of, it's a great kind of standing point. And all of the kind of things that you're trying to encourage maturation to do, and if you've done your job properly, they all come together around about 12-year-old. And again, the combination is kind of similar to 10-year-old. It's PX Oloroso, American Virgin, and some red wine. And what we're looking for here, what you should be looking for, is at 46%, wonderful in the palate, smooth, gentle. PX will be the first experience, the kind of Christmas cake, figs and dates. Then you'll pick up the dark chocolate, the mocha, and then there's a layer of butterscotch, honey, vanilla, ginger, hints of cloves, nutmeg. And it's just speaking beautifully to you. You definitely don't add water to this whiskey. This is just, it's nearly perfection. It's 90%.
I think is that 46%?
It's 46%. Full in the mouth, front, middle and back. Big experience. And it's not really, there's nothing overwhelming here. It's really, really well balanced. Dangerous whiskey. This is, if you start this early in the evening, you're in trouble.
It's good to drink with a couple of friends in the evening. Easy to drink. Very nice. It's very pleasant to drink with friends.
as
Favorite for my woman.
as the Spanish say, peligroso. You know, the reality is that I don't drink a lot of whiskey. And one of the reasons is that all the good work we do, if you're a blender, you'll do all your work before 10 o'clock in the morning. It's when your palate's freshest. It's when your mind, hopefully, is clearest. And you haven't eaten anything. You don't eat anything before we do any work. And when people ask me, we look at 400 samples, what is it you're looking for? Remarkably, we're looking for things that are not so good and things that are remarkably good. We know that most of them will be in between, will be perfect. So we want to take out the ones that are maybe not reaching the kind of quality we're looking for. Then we ask why. Is it the new fill at that time, or has it been the cask experience? And the very good ones, and that's the challenge, is what do we do with them? Do we bottle them as a single cask, or can we identify them as something that could go on a very long journey? We'll keep that for a 21 or a 25-year-old. And it's fascinating, but occasionally, just occasionally, we go off the rails. And one of these occasions was last week when I was doing a bit of work, and I had some blending friends in, and let's say next day I had a very, very challenging head. What do you think? It's pretty good.
Was the 12-year-old your habit since a couple of years? And did it change the batches? There is no batches on the bottle, but obviously there might be batches.
Look, Peter, if you listen to what I said about the kind of... I don't mean that rudely or unkindly, but what I was saying essentially was we're still equilibrating between what we inherited and what we're creating. And the creation part is still ongoing. And when we finally move into the whiskey that we have structured ourselves, there will be a difference, and it will be a good difference.
So if someone notices that now the GlenAllachie is on the shelf with an award here, you can see it, and he thinks, oh, I bought a bottle of 12-year-old 2 years, 3 years ago, and he's still having it, he is not necessarily having the same whiskey.
But the certainty the one certainty that I will give him is that if it's after that one, it will be better, even better.
Okay.
Salesman.
No. Conceited maybe. But look, let me go back to what I said earlier in the evening. One of the hugely interesting good things about being a private independent company, being the blender and the owner is a huge benefit. You can do things, but there are no barriers to where we want to go. Only in our mind. You know, if we think we've achieved perfection, we're in trouble. The next journey is going to be the next one, the better one, and that's the belief we have. And we know that we are doing things in terms of wood management, and in terms of indeed how we're managing the fermentation and the still cuts. We know that the things that we're doing are the right things, and it will benefit us in the long term. Now, the long term is 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now. But the first part of that journey will be 2027, and we already know, we're following the development of these casks. They are in rich health. Yeah, this is okay.
When did you have this one last time?
Oh, Peter, that's very embarrassing. That was last week. Last week I was staying, I was overnighting at GlenAllachie, drank too much, and actually was very nervous about driving back in the morning because I was carrying quite a cargo.
Okay.
When you're talking about 27, explain a little bit what to expect. So what did you create? What do you expect from that? Be honest.
I'm not sure I want to say this in advance of it happening.
Okay.
You're going to say, the intensity of the flavour will be higher. The level of the fruitiness will probably be higher. The depth of flavour will be deeper. And if I'm honest, it's a kind of milestone in the journey. It's really, really important because it kind of means that we leave the Chivas experience behind.
Okay.
And we're moving on with our own kind of intellectual structure. But I know from what it won't disappoint. We know that it's surpassing everything we want, but we don't want to bring it to the market with a kind of 8-year-old statement on it. We want it to a minimum 10-year-old.
Okay, sounds interesting. Thank you.
Which we'll talk about young whiskey at some point. But if you're interested in peated whiskey, if you're a peat freak, am I allowed to say that? Okay. It is quite interesting with peat whiskey because if you really want a full peated experience with a peated whiskey, it's somewhere between 5 and 8 years. After that, the peat influence begins to diminish and fade. Now, the whiskey continues to change and improve in a variety of other ways, but the influence of the peat, the kind of phenols and the cresols, beginning to diminish. So if you look at a 20-year-old peated whiskey, it will be a fantastic whiskey, but it won't be boomfy. It won't be a big peated experience. 5 to 8, 5 to 10. And we'll maybe see something about this later, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, how much % do you make peated whiskey and unpeated?
We make about 15% peated whiskey. 15.
15, okay.
But it's a different kind of peat, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, questions?
If you have a question, I come with a mic to you.
What am I?
Just
Okay.
say.
Billy, you told us a lot of experiments with different types of wood. Do you also do experiments with different types of yeast?
Yes.
Okay.
But perhaps not in the way you would understand. We are very conventional. We still use a combination of distillers and brewers' yeasts, but we're quite innovative in the sense if we know that we're going to fill, let's say, some red wine casks, we'll top dress with red wine yeast. If we're going to fill some Chardonnay casks, we'll top down with Chardonnay yeast, rum yeast, and so on. But we're not brave enough yet to be extremely right wing or left wing.
So there are other distilleries, I know at least one, that just experimented with different kinds of yeast, like different brewery yeast from Belgium, from
Sure.
Germany.
And we're nervous about moving too far away, but we're on the wings.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
But more importantly, and we might have got onto this subject later in the evening, but the one topic, the one area that I would like to retrace my steps, if I could, is in terms of the malted barley varietal.
Okay. That was
When I started out with Hiram Walker, Ballantyne's, a typical yield using Golden Promise would be around about 395 litres per metric ton of barley. Today we can get, I think we're on Laureate, I think it's Laureate at the moment, I'm not sure, but Today we're getting about 425. Something's gone wrong or something's changed. And we are convincing, we work with the local farmers, and next year we've persuaded one of them to actually grow a significant amount of Golden Promise. Now, we know the yield will be less, but the problem with the varietal is that the bigger companies are keen on getting high yield. Our preference is to get the right balance between the kind of starch and the proteins actually in the malted barley. And that's a journey we'll be on. Like we've been working with local farmers quite a lot over the last 2 or 3 years, but in this one we've persuaded somebody to actually retrace their steps and work with the Golden Promise. And we think that's a bigger step than kind of changing around with the yeast.
Do you only use barley from Scotland or from other countries like England or Germany or continental Europe?
I can say with 100% certainty and with no embarrassment, we only use Scottish barley.
Good idea.
Any more questions? You will be live with your question.
Peter, either bored or spellbound.
Definitely not bored. Overwhelmed with the good whiskey.
It's very good.
I really like it that you created this whiskey. You had it, of course, very often because you created it, and you're still putting the glass down and say, oh wow, it's a good whiskey.
Moments in time. Just as a side, this is at 46%, good strength. Yeah, it's very good.
Maybe one more question.
Sure.
My personal long life favorite is the GlenDronach 18 Allardyce. Do you have something in your repertoire, in your portfolio, which you think which is maybe quite similar to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of the stuff we're working with at the moment is quite similar to the experiences we had with, particularly with GlenDronach. Sure, you know, it's kind of history for me, but
of course,
it's like we created a lot of good stuff at GlenDronach. We actually took a distillery that was virtually unknown, and we gave it some life. But you know, the journey with GlenAllachie is not to replicate what we did at Number. It's to be GlenAllachie, to be its own personality. There are similarities in the approach that we're taking in terms of wood management, and then maybe the depth and the kind of muscularity of the cut. Look, GlenDronach wasn't a shrinking violet, and GlenAllachie will not be a shrinking violet.
Okay.
It's a good distillery. Yeah.
So, next whiskey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Chinkapin. Vintage 1.
This is we're going to talk about the next one's going to be the Vintage release number 1. It's a combination of Chinkapin casks and PX casks, and I think I alluded to earlier in the evening that Chinkapin is interesting. It's the industry was nervous about Chinkapin because it had characteristics, flavour characteristics that maybe had never really been defined or contained within the perception of how people saw Scotch whisky. Certainly saw single malt whisky. Why was that? Chinkapin, real characters. It's got anise notes, it's got licorice notes, herbal notes, and kind of almost not what people were looking for. The reality was what they were contributing were flavour components that had never really been used or expressed in blended whisky, but more importantly, in malt whisky. Now we weren't brave enough in this series to say that we're going to be really, really bold and bring these out as 100% Chinkapin. Not yet, but we had a look at what sits comfortably with it, and we knew that the PX would bring characteristics like sweet, bold, Christmas cake, dates and figs that would offset some of these quite interesting, unique herbal notes, anise notes, even hints of eucalyptus. And they were bold notes, and it was getting the balance right. But when we did some, well, it's 2014, it's not hugely, old whiskey, but it was expressing the kind of flavours at that age. It was expressing the flavours in the way we wanted to portray this new kind of combination. Bottled at what strength, Peter? It's
57 something.
57,
57.8.
Comfortable at this strength. And if you haven't tasted Chinkapin before, it's a nice surprise. It's not an uncomfortable experience. It's a journey into something that's different, and let's see where it takes us.
You're pouring? On the bottle I can see Chinkapin and PX matured. So is it full? I guess it's not fully matured.
Well, it started life, a small part of life in American virgin casks.
And can you give us a hint how many years it was in?
5.
Good.
5 in the Chinkapin.
Yeah. And is there a rule in Scotland if you have a whiskey longer finished than the first maturation that you can name it matured in, and you don't name it double matured or finished?
You can almost put it any way you want, Peter. But people are not interested in us saying that it's been in American barrels. They want to understand what are these unique flavours, what has contributed to this new, unique experience.
And the PX is also 5 years?
At least 5 years for the PX, yes.
Both. So both Chinkapin and PX is 5 years. Good.
I still love this whiskey, but I love the Scottish oak better.
Yeah. I was amazed with the Scottish oak. I had it in the distillery back in September. What was it? August, end of August or September. And I'm a big fan of it. Fantastic whiskey. But I was a big fan of the 15-year-old Scottish virgin oak.
That's fantastic.
That was a really good one.
But it's big. It's a big experience.
I don't have it anymore, unfortunately.
I don't think I have it either, Peter.
Da steht noch eine, hier, ey. Da steht noch, das ist gelabelt, auch the new one, yeah. Finger weg vom gelabelten Flaschen.
Don't disappoint me. Don't disappoint me.
We said we have a lot of stock, no problem.
Here. What?
Here, Rojan, here.
One for the Willy.
I need.
He gets the rest of the bottle.
Thank you. Thank you. What strength is this one, Peter?
57.8. $57.8, and still good to drink as it is.
Yeah, but on the palate immediately you can pick up these different notes, these herbal notes, anise notes, even maybe a little hint of incense. And then you've got in the background big dark chocolate mocha, dates, figs, and it's spices, ginger, nutmeg.
Sorry, we maybe overheard you talking about the maturation in two of the casks. So what's the split?
50-50.
I think Peter already asked you about, is it full maturation? I think I overheard you said with the PX it's not.
Both are not,
Both are not, okay.
but they've been a minimum of 5 years in the final casks.
Just out of curiosity, because like I adore this drug. What about sales? Did it make a huge hit? Because you came out with a new, shiny box and new line. What are the numbers about this?
Listen, the numbers each of these will be about 20,000 bottles gone. We produced about 20,000 bottles of this, and they've all been sold.
Is it sold out?
I think so, Peter. But interestingly,
I have it still.
this is a kind of taste experience, single malt taste experience, that you wouldn't have had a chance to taste 10 or 15 years ago. Nobody would have been brave enough to bring this kind of experience to the market. And again, it's about having the freedom to do it. And having actually, interesting, the audience for single malt all over the world now is a really well-informed, educated audience that are interested, curious, inquisitive. And that creates opportunity. People are not looking at single malt with a very narrow lens now. They're looking at it with a very broad lens. What interesting things can we do? I mean, I agree with you. I think it's a fantastic dram. Mm-hmm. I have to say the next one's better.
I myself am not agree. Because I'm a sucker for the zesty notes that I guess the Chemiker is bringing into this, like a little tiny hints of sourness, let's say.
Herbal notes, anise, eucalyptus.
But still, you're the only one brave enough to do that. Beside to Rassay recently, I never saw that on a whiskey market in Scotland, Chinkapin.
One of the greatest compliments in life you can get, Peter, is when people start copying you.
Do you think there are more companies will copy you in future with Chinkapin oak? Nobody did that before, or Mongolian oak, or even Scottish oak?
I think they have to. I think every blender, every distiller has to understand how his style of spirit will actually interface with the Chinkapin. And if the spirit is on the light side, it's a problem. If the spirit is fairly muscular and strong, it's okay. Mm. And that's up to the blender. He will decide if the actual spirit, the personality of the spirit, is capable of living in a Chinkapin cask.
But the spirit you used was the original GlenAllachie spirit, not the spirit that...
It was the original GlenAllachie spirit. We were comfortable with it. It wasn't. It was a lighter spirit than we're making just now, but it wasn't a light spirit. Mm. It was fairly bimphy, as were all these distilleries. They had big personality. We would just want to make the current lot a little bit bigger, but not just bigger, but balanced in terms of what's in the profile of the spirit. What are we looking for this the higher alcohols, the esters. What are we looking for? And that's a kind of depth of understanding you have to drill to really capture all of the things that you want to achieve.
And did you choose GlenAllachie in purpose to buy this distillery because of the spirit, or because just it was available and there was no other one?
Well, opportunity comes in different ways. This came about, GlenAllachie came about, and we just sold the previous business, sadly. And I was a very reluctant seller, I have to say, but anyway, that's history. And I got a conversation from the MD of Chivas, who said, "Billy, would you like to buy GlenAllachie?" And I said, "Yeah, it's a good idea." But I knew the distillery. I mean, for many years, I had worked with GlenAllachie as a spirit, very comfortable. I also knew that a lot of the big companies were keen on using GlenAllachie as part of their blending experience. So it wasn't a hit and a miss. I kind of knew what we were getting.
And why did Chivas sell that? So they could have used it for their blends.
Well, Peter,
what they did before.
You need to ask them. I have some thoughts on the matter, but it would be very improper to share them.
Okay. Maybe Dalmonach could be a reason?
Well, all of these things would add up. Yeah, that would be part of the reason. But to get the opportunity, first of all, beautiful distillery, beautiful location, big distillery, can do about 4 million litres. Because we're doing long fermentation, we're operating about 1,800,000 to 1 million litres. So we're operating about 25% of the capacity that the distillery is capable of. We're doing the right things. We're making enough single malt to see where the future is, and we're not speculating on what the future might be. And it's allowing us to create a kind of wash for the stills that is giving the whole experience much more rounded, and the ability we're eliminating all of the problems. Any kind of flavour downside has been removed by long fermentation. And yeah, listen, GlenAllachie has been it's been a great opportunity. So terrific distillery, terrific location, and great people working there.
If you would have the freeness to buy, not talking about money, but to buy any distillery in a smaller distillery in Scotland, which one would you have chosen?
Oh, Peter, this is being recorded.
Don't worry, it's just on the internet. Nobody cares about the internet.
Okay. If I had a magic wand and Santa Claus came along and said to me, "Okay, you can buy Scapa."
Really?
Good distillery. Good choice, yeah.
Did Santa Claus come along?
If he did, I was asleep.
But you already said that last year. So is there no option at all? Maybe?
You're waiting too long.
That kind of decision is outside of my ken. It would be a wonderful opportunity. Very interesting whiskey.
Nowadays we have so many very new distilleries, which are sometimes not with a whiskey on market, and business changed worldwide, also in Scotland. Is there a distillery where you would say, hey, that would be interesting from the very new ones, which have to be developed and not on the market yet?
Listen, I need to go home. I can't answer that question, Peter. Look, what I will say is that good luck to them. A lot of people have come into the market probably at the wrong time. The challenges are acute. The problem, it's like any business, you know, if headwinds actually create kind of downward trend in terms of opportunity. It's all about available cash. Can you support the business plan? And the problem then is, if you can't, you make poor decisions. And the poor decisions you make for your own company also affect the whole collective industry, because that will influence what's happening out there. And I just wish anybody who has built a distillery, I wish them really good luck. It's a challenge. Actually, trying to showcase the brand internationally is difficult. It's certainly difficult at the moment. That's a private conversation, Peter.
Good. Well, last question. If I would, if I would have some money, I don't have, but if I would have some money and I would build a distillery now in Scotland, would you recommend me to doing that, or would you stop me doing that?
Listen, if it depends what's driving you. If it's fanciful, I would stop you. But if you genuinely understand the journey you're on, and importantly, a very important word in our industry, in the whisky world, is patience. But the problem is sometimes you make decisions you make the wrong decision. For example, if you need some cash, you might bring something to the market that's younger than you wanted to, and that defines who you are. And it's difficult to recreate that definition. Once you brought something to the market that says, this is Distillery B, it's a 6-year-old, and this is the style, that's what people will remember. And if you bring a 16-year-old out whenever, they will still remember you were defined as the 6-year-old. And that's the complication of building from scratch, laying down enough stock, and then actually the big challenge is actually taking your story to the market and convincing people to buy. And being patient, would I bring anything, if I had built a distillery, would I bring anything to the market younger than 10 years? No. Because you are defining who you are too early, and you're creating more problems than solutions.
But so then, if I would like to do it, I need a lot of money.
You've got a lot of money.
Tell me more about this.
Or a good partner.
I don't have a lot of money. Got a lot of whiskey, but I don't have any money. What is it? I'm asset rich and cash poor. Anyway, what do you think? It's pretty good whiskey, this thing. It's different.
Any questions? Some question? Just a second. Then everybody can listen to it.
Is, if you do combine different casks, do you know in advance what is the result, or is it sometimes a question of try and error?
I think we know in advance what the contribution is going to be. We've been following these casks for 2017, 8 years, 10 years, and so we know there won't be any disappointments. The surprise will be how they actually do interact with each other. Now we know we've done pilots. We know exactly that they're going to be good. But when we finally bring the final creation to the market, it's mostly the case is it's better than we anticipated. The bigger batches tend to deliver more than doing a small pilot batch. do we get bad surprises? I think we identify any kind of negative feeling much earlier in the process. We might change direction. But we know that a lot of these, the Chinkapin, the Scottish Virgin Oak, and indeed others that will come in this series, we know what they're going to bring. It's not going to be a surprise to us. And we know the sequence in which they'll come. So we'll see. In my opinion, the one we're going to taste now, the combination of Scottish Virgin and Oloroso, is stunningly good. It's great to be able to showcase Scottish Virgin Oak because it is special. It's the spicy contribution is wonderful, and the balance with the kind of the chocolate and the mocha and the spices from the sherry cask, brilliant. And you won't be disappointed. What will disappoint me is if you don't like it.
And I want to thank, in behalf of the whiskey community, to you for these whiskies. If we consider that we have fantastic casks like Chinkapin, Scottish Virgin Oak, Pedro Jimenez, we have whiskies which are 10 years in this case. We have whiskies that are coming in cask strength and still sold by roughly 70-something euros. And I think a lot of the big boys would ask more money for that, but you don't. So thank you that you offer us this fantastic whiskies for this price value.
Be careful.
Didn't get the latest price on the market.
Listen, you're right. You're right, Peter. We know, we think we know the market. I think we're closer and touch the market more effectively, more sympathetically than some of the bigger companies. We're comfortable where we are price-wise. Fine.
Yep.
And given that this whiskey is such a hit that is sold out, right? Essentially all the stock. Are we, or can we hope for Sinte's #1 batch too, or some kind of a repetition of this recipe in the future?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I mean, listen, we've got lots of Chinkapin casks slumbering away in the warehouse.
And I learned tonight this will be even better.
Of course.
Maybe since you're more or less talking about blending, you're not only doing like the classical GlenAllachie, you're also doing the, well, let's say, revival of White Heather. What was your idea to make this better than what it was before?
It's a really good question. You know, one of the conditions of buying GlenAllachie was that we wanted to take ownership of White Heather, and I'm not sure there's MD in the audience is old enough to remember that at one point, White Heather was the #1 blended whiskey for Pernod. Before they bought Ballantyne's and before they bought Chivas, White Heather was their signatory brand. It was their brand, top brand. And of course, once you get Chivas and Ballantyne's, suddenly it's a different world. It's a different orbit altogether. Have we been successful with White Heather? In terms of constructing a terrific blend, I would say yes. I think it's a fantastic blend. Interesting combination of malts and grain. And in a blend in particular, the grain is a very important ingredient. The grains that I've always liked to work with were the Barton grain, which is the best grain that was ever produced. Strathclyde and Girvan. The others, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with. They're my favourites. So White Heather was constructed essentially with Strathclyde and Girvan as the base, the grain base. And then we had some GlenAllachie, we had some Milton Duff, Glenburgie, smashing whiskies, by the way. Terrific depth of flavour. And some peated Altabane was in there. There was some Kalila. And some other spread of whiskies, 65-35, I think, maybe 60-40. It's a terrific blend. The problem with breaking into the blended market is it's kind of blends surprisingly in the eyes of the consumer now is secondary to single malt. And yet in the world, blended whiskey sells about 82% of all whiskey and 18% is single malt. But you're battling against, you know, Johnny Walker, Ballantine's, Chivas Regal. They're big players, and it's difficult to penetrate. But we're working away at Whitehead, smashing blend. And interestingly, we chose to be 15 and 21 because once you're in the 12-year-old or younger, you're in territory they will just destroy you. So we're in territory where we should be able to make some kind of impact. Have we done what we wanted to do? We're a bit off the pace, but the journey continues.
Louis, give Benny and me one.
Full one.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not listening to this one.
Thank you. Full one for Bill.
Amazing stuff.
Thank you. It's enough.
Take the water.
Are we okay? We're okay. Oh, this I have to switch. 58-2.
What's the strength, Peter? Tell me again.
58-2.
58.2.
Scottish Virgin Oak is really fantastic. Also, the only one, the other one I know is from Bekannt, the 18 euros. It's also a fantastic whiskey. But is there enough Scottish Virgin Oak for others?
There's enough in a sense, Peter, that the big companies will not use it. It's too expensive.
No.
The problem we have is that there is a restriction on how much oak they can touch. And there's a restriction in terms of the price. The 800, 900. The last time, like £1,200 a cask.
It's a lot. It's more expensive than a PX cask.
Yeah, marginally more expensive. PX £1,200, you get a punch in. This one, you only get a barrel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's much more expensive.
Yeah.
One more question.
A question, because anyway it's recorded.
Have you created already your perfect whiskey?
No. This one is the one you're about to taste is quite close to where it might be.
What is your step forward in terms of development?
Every day we're looking at ways of engineering additionality in terms of both value and quality. And I actually, are we ready?
Yes, we're ready. So everybody ready again?
Listen, it's a pleasure actually to showcase this particular expression. We've got Scottish oak, which in my opinion is the king of oaks. And there are many reasons why, but I'll explain why. And Oloroso sherry casks, which are unquestionably the king of sherry casks. So what we're trying to combine here, what our thinking was, We knew that Scottish oak had, as well as all the other butterscotch, honey, vanilla characteristics, it had spicy notes that were intense and interesting. Things like cinnamon and ginger are big in here. And in the background, you'll get nutmeg, hints of cloves, even hints of cardamom. Now, you need to look hard and think about this and go away and have another look at it. Combining it with the Oloroso cask, you're going to get dark chocolate, mocha. You're going to get some spices from the sherry cask as well. We looked at what the ratio should be. We started somewhere around about 30% virgin to 70% Oloroso. We ended up around about 50-50. The strength is
58.2.
58.2. Drink it at this strength. This is, if I had to say, there are two whiskies that I would say stand out for me in the last 10 years. One of them is a 17-year-old Mizunara, GlenAllachie Mizunara Oloroso. Wonderful whiskey, and maybe the best whiskey I've ever made. This one is pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
And it's relatively young, it's
10
years. Behaving extremely well for a 10-year-old whiskey.
Slange.
The flavours in here swarm all over your mouth.
Do we have the same roughly 5-year-old maturation?
Yes. Maybe in Scottish oak a little bit longer. And maybe the Oloroso a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
So what's so special about Scottish oak? Despite it's from Scotland.
Well, that's the most special part, the Scottish. But interestingly,
so question was, what's special about Scottish oak?
Of all the oaks, it's the oak that gives the most intense delivery of spicy notes. All the oaks will give you, with the right kind of management in terms of toasting and charring. Now, we normally drive for a medium toast and a medium char, but a heavy char sometimes will give you more intense toffee treacle notes. But the danger with longer charring is you can also actually get a burnt note coming through in the whiskey, and I don't mean a pleasant, I mean a kind of acrid burnt note coming through. So we don't ever overchar. But all of these things are important to the kind of conversion process from the structure of the chemicals and the breakdown of all these macromolecules into these interesting flavour components. I mean, something that will be in here is a coconut flavour, and that's a natural ingredient in it's called whiskey lactones. In American oak, it's something like 30 times more intense than European oak. So it tells you that no one oak is the same. And that's why, you know, the freedom to go out there and look for different styles of oak. The one that we're looking at next is Scandinavian. We think there's something interesting there. But what's unique about Scottish oak? Scottish. It suffers from some incredibly complicated neighbours. Short, a bit like the people. Complex, complicated, but more importantly, the one thing that differentiates it is the intensity of the spicy notes that you get from the oak.
Do you have an idea where this comes from? Is it because of the climate, because of the situation being on an island, let's say maybe earth or something?
I think it's much more likely to be the botanical development of the species because of the the kind of terrain. Climate's important, of course, and occasionally we get sun. and most of the time we don't. But let me just go back to the dram itself. This is a kind of dram that you would never have experienced 30 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. It's about being curious, inquisitive, doing things, just moving, pushing the barrier back a little bit all the time. I think, I don't know if you share, I think it's a fantastic dram, this.
Do you have an idea what is the average age of the oaks where the barrels are made of? Just a gut feeling.
The Scottish oak will be over 200 years.
More than
200. And that's, again, it's interesting, that'll be part of the whole reason. And this oak comes from an oak series in Perthshire in Scotland. And we're only allowed to cut so much oak. It's... No, it's controlled. The amount of oak you can cut in Scotland is controlled. Perthshire. This is from Perthshire.
If you compare it with a chinkapin, what is the average age of a chinkapin?
My suspicion would be equally. This is a good question, actually. This is a very interesting question. It's got a lot to do with history rather than whiskey, but the question is, how old is chinkapin oak? Chinkapin oak will be very old, and the reason is that chinkapin is actually the name of the oak given to the tree by the Indians. So that goes back a long way. But the Scottish oak will be over 200 years because it comes from a forest just outside Perthshire. And we're very, very controlled in how much of that oak we can actually take.
But they normally grow faster if the temperatures are higher.
We don't have high temperature.
Not in Scotland, but in Missouri, for example. If we talk about chinkapin, it's in the Bible Belt of the US.
Yes, Missouri area.
Much higher temperatures.
But it took the Americans a long time to get in there before they could cut it. But yeah, it's a good question. But it's interesting. It's an Indian name, so the history of these oaks go back a long, long way. Anyway, not bad.
That's good.
Not bad at all.
It's a big challenge, Peter. 1, 2, 3,
8. 8. 3 to go.
3 to go.
And what can we expect for Sintage? What can we expect for Sintage number 3?
Well, I should have explained right at the start. Sintage is actually the Gaelic word for synthesis. So there will be a synthesis number 3, and it's likely to be French virgin oak combination. French virgin oak is also very, very spicy, and probably combined with Oloroso.
Mm-hmm.
And then there will be some interesting journeys after that. The temptation will be to include Polo Cortado sherry somewhere in the series, along with a virgin oak. The journey will continue, Peter.
Good. We're looking forward to it.
The journey will continue. The decision has never been made yet. Are we on the express train or on the scenic route? We're on the scenic route at the moment. So.
French oak, you mean virgin limousine oak?
Yes, limousine.
Also virgin.
Also virgin. I was saying to Peter that one of the obstacles to doing this kind of work in the past has always been in the bigger companies, would have probably been on the pricing. You know, I was saying Mizunara is very expensive, 3,500. Virgin oak's expensive, it's £1,200 for a barrel. But the contribution is so interesting. Be brave.
So I'm a big Palo Cortado fan. What would you combine with Palo Cortado?
Well, in theory, Peter, it's I think it's really nearer Oloroso than Fino or Amontillado. My temptation, and the trouble is, it's unlikely that we'll be able to release this for a long time. It would be Russian oak. But if it's not Russian oak, it would be Mongolian.
So it would be Russian oak, but you would name it Mongolian.
No, it will be. No, we're not naughty. We're not naughty. The Russian oak will eventually someday will bring sense to the world, but we'll leave that for the moment. But Mongolian oak and Palo Cortado would be interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That sounds really interesting. Yep.
Or maybe Mizunara.
Mm-hmm. Mizunara and Palo Cortado.
Yeah.
70 euros. Great.
Near.
It's been recorded.
No. This is a problem with alcohol. Yeah.
So how are you doing so far?
Fine.
Very often I have guests over from Scotland and doing whiskey tastings like tonight, and you all have been here before. Who was here before to a tasting? Okay, so nearly everybody. And you are used to 8 whiskies in a tasting. That's standard, that's normal, and you're used to it. But mostly when I have guests over from Scotland, or if I ask other shops, they do 6 whiskies. The most. And they're all astonished that we handle 8 whiskies, but we can, can't we?
This is not Cologne, this is Peter. This is because of Peter that we handle with 8 whiskies. And mostly more.
8 more.
And sometimes more.
This is Cologne. You drink a lot of glasses with nothing in it.
Well, that's after.
If you want to have more water, you can go outside.
Yeah, they all have been in a training camp for a while.
That's not alcohol, that's water of life. So.
You should have warned me.
But you should have known from last year's hard crowd.
Yeah.
The water of life.
Cuvée.
Also great.
Recioto, Languedoc, Médoc, Recioto, and Commissari.
Ja. Very interesting. It's a little bit difficult for this guy after this whiskey.
Should maybe have done it before, but you know. How old is this one, Peter?
12, 23, so roughly 10 years, 48%.
Okay. Eight-years old. So young,
No, that's 10 years.
10 years, okay. Strength?
48. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So you're ready for our next drum?
Yes, of course.
Now we go to the. There's a question.
One more good question. That's it. Me too. Okay, so one. The Quercus mongolica, right? It is a genus that's similar to Mizunara because that's from Quercus mongolica too. Is the porousness on the same level as the Mizunara? And second question, what's the market price for a Quercus mongolica for wherever? And we know the Mizunara is like Ferrari price, right? So what's the, those are two questions.
You're a shocker. Mongolian oak is probably about £1,200 a cask. In terms of porosity, they have the same kind of absorption characteristic, but Mizunara oak is much more difficult to convince to seal as a barrel. So we buy most of the casks from Hokkaido, and the journey is about 5-6 weeks. And it's better to buy them in winter time than to buy them in summertime.
Oh shit!
Because they like to kind of.
But that's an interesting factor that most of the people in the room thought about. Interesting.
We're always thinking about loss.
Any other questions?
Do you always buy ready casks in the different countries, or do you sometimes buy only the wood to prepare the casks at home?
So,
own cooperage?
so the question was for everybody who's listening. Casks that are ready made bought by you, or you buy the wood and you build the cask in Scotland?
We do both. Actually, particularly with Mizunara casks, sometimes we'll buy the Mizunara oak and have them constructed here because of the challenges of moving these casks in a warm environment. It also gives us control. We can decide how long we want to air dry them. My suspicion is that they would probably air dry in Japan for 3 years. We would probably want it for 4 years. And we have, listen, Coopers don't like working with Mizunara oak. They don't like working with Scottish oak. So it's a challenge to convince our local cooperage Speyside to build Mizunara casks, but we're on board. You know, we're on song. They know how important it is, and they're learning a lot as we are. So we buy both as wood and as constructed barrels.
So what I would suppose is that the Bennett cooperage settled in Scotland, not in anywhere in the country, in the world. Perhaps with the exception of USA or Japan.
Listen, if I'm honest, our preference is to buy them in Japan. If we buy them as oak, it can be 4 years away before we can actually get a hold of these casks. But it's getting the mix right. But the Coopers don't like working with Mizunara. They don't like working with Scottish oak either. Yeah.
I basically want to repeat a question you heard the last 2 years here already. And well, you already told us about your adventures, let's say, with Colombia. So are there any other interesting things for you left to discover? Anything where you still would say, that is something, well, we talked about Russia. Anything else I would like to really try out regarding this type of oak, this type of combination in a synthesis? Anything where you would say, this is like my idea I really want to try out in the future?
Yeah, look, we've never tried Scandinavian oak, and that's definitely going to be the next, it'll be the next trial. Anything else? I think I actually think we've done some German oak, and it's similar to Limousin oak in terms of absorption characteristics. It's probably Kirkischer. Yeah, it's not Petrea. It's in that territory. Romanian oak, it's interesting. Got some of that. But you know, sometimes you have to focus and actually make the business work. And you know, if it's too broad, it becomes complicated. But from my point of view, it's great fun. You know, looking at these different things and interesting questions like, you know, it's an interesting question. What's the difference absorption rate between Scottish oak and French oak or Spanish oak for that matter? It's interesting, and it's interesting that most wineries, even American wineries, want to use French oak because the absorption is quicker. So the wine gets into the oak much more quicker with French oak than it does with American oak. American oak is also, as I said earlier, American oak has got a coconut feature, whiskey lactone, that's 30 times higher in American oak than any other regional oak in the world. So, you know, there are so many different things that you can play with if you're interested enough and you drill right into the kind of depth of the understanding. Who asked the question?
You basically answered it. It was on basically your future ideas when you said Scandinavian oak is still something open to be explored in more detail.
Yeah, like there's more oaks that we want to have a look at, and there's more that we already have in place, and then it's understanding how best they assimilate with other things that we want to look at. The challenges in my life, the first challenge is to get my son back into the business.
Do you think that climate change will have any aspects for an influence to that?
Can I give you two answers to this? One is just this is a funny answer. Look, the trees must be loving life just now. CO2 is growing like crazy. But the reality is, of course, it's not. Certainly, if there is a temperature differentiation, that will make changes to how the land behaves. I can already see in Scotland that in parts of the borders, people are growing corn. It's remarkable. Certainly remarkable for Scotland, but look, climate change has been happening forever, and the plants and the people have been assimilating the differences and going with it. We don't really need politicians to tell us how to behave. We certainly don't need politicians from the United Kingdom telling us how to behave, but it's another story. Sorry, that's politics.
Did you ever think about to air condition your barrel houses just in order to?
What's your question?
Did you ever think about to air condition your barrel houses just in order to change the maturation process?
I think would be very reluctant to do that. The ideal kind of climatic situation for a warehouse is to fill the warehouse and close the doors. And as the alcohol evaporates into the atmosphere, the temperature gets cooler and cooler. That's ideal. We really don't. Scotland, we don't need to refrigerate the warehouses. No.
No, but for example, to heat it up, if you see, for example, the development of the Indian whiskies, because they are stored in a much hotter area surrounding, so they have a different maturation process. The question is if you would heat it up, if you would have a different behavior of it.
You're in territory that has a huge depth of discussion here. There is no shortcut to quality. First thing, heating up. I need to listen. You're putting me in the spot here. I need to be very careful what I say. Look. In the maturation process, if you have a hot environment, you can encourage some quicker extraction, but you cannot. You may be over extracting things and getting things totally out of balance. Whereas over a long period of time, as I said earlier, and as the strength is dropping, the type of chemical reactions that take place and the conditions that are changing constantly because of the change in alcoholic strength, that happens slowly, and these reactions happen slowly, like the compounds I was talking about. They deliver pineapple, mango notes, pomegranate notes. These things don't happen quickly. And you need to be able to, and you don't extract all these things quickly from the wood. You might be able to get a quick early extraction from the wood, but what you get is a very, very narrow flavour profile in the whiskey. I don't want to, I'm not criticising any whiskey. All I'm saying is the kind of environment we have in Europe, and certainly in Scotland, is ideal for long aging. And there are huge benefits to long aging that you do not get with a hot environment that encourages, first of all, very quick evaporation. And if you cool your warehouses, you're going to lose all of that. So I'm happy the way we are in Scotland. I have no envy. I have no envy for other continents.
Any more questions? Otherwise, we head to the next whiskey. So next one will be a wine cuvee. 48%. 2012, 2023. So nearly 10 years old. Or a little bit more than 10 years old.
I have to say this was a very unusual journey in this one for me. We looked at, it was some Languedoc, some Médoc, French wine casks, some Gratamaco, Italian, very nice Italian wine casks, and some Recioto, and about 25. Interesting experiment. I have to say I haven't repeated a lot of wine cask releases. I'm not quite sure what encouraged me in this particular journey. I think it was the availability of some really, really nice wine casks. Different style. It's a different style of whiskey. It's a drier style. It's got grape must. It's got black currants. It's got red berries. It's got all of these things with hints of underneath on the layers of butterscotch, vanilla, toffee and treacle. Would I say it's the most spectacular release we've ever made? No, it's not. But it's another example of how the cask can influence the direction in which you're taking the flavour journey. I'll be interested in your reaction to this one.
Slanje.
Slanje. It's different.
I like it.
Yeah.
I drank more than one bottle.
Well, what's interesting though is the flavour prominences in here are quite different. It's driven by the wine casks. I mean, there are quite strong tannin notes in here.
Mm-hmm.
Musty, grape must, tannin. Spice notes are, it's a different kind of spice.
It's very different to Scottish Virgin Oak chicken, and
it's just, it shows you how important the wood is.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So it's a fantastic journey through flavors with all the whiskies we had already. Now we have a completely different style, but still GlenAllachie. What do you think of this whiskey?
Very nice.
But it's in a totally different flavour spectrum. And it shows you, you know, if I haven't said this at the start of the meeting, in my opinion, the wood flavour, good casks will deliver 70% of the actual flavour in the whiskey over, let's say, an 8 to 10 year old maturation period. But this is dominant. You know, we know that when we take the wine casks, that these casks they're not charred, so you're not going to get any treacle notes or toffee notes. You might pick up some butterscotch, some honey and vanilla in the background. But these are the pressing flavours are kind of grape must, certainly hints of tannin, and quite strong hints of tannin, and all the kind of flavour components that come out of the hydrolyzation of the tannin structure. Mostly kind of spicy notes, into cloves, for example. There's quite strong cloves note in here. But it's another, it's the example of you can decide what the journey is going to be by choosing the casks at the start of the journey. And I suppose the clever point is knowing when to stop and take it out of these casks and put it in a bottle so that it doesn't overcook, it doesn't become hugely overcooked with a particular style of flavour.
What do you do with the casks which are overcooked?
It's not the casks that are overcooked, it's the whiskey that becomes overcooked. What we do with these wine casks, because they are, essentially these casks, they haven't been charred, so there's a lot of active life left in wine casks. What we tend to do is send them to the cooperage and we shave, after we've used them maybe, we'll send them, shave them, toast them and re-char them. And what you essentially get in the end is almost a semi-virgin cask. And then you're into different territory. Then you're into the kind of toffee, treacle notes, honey notes as a base.
And this is an ongoing line, right? This is a multiple batch kind of thing.
I think it might be a little while before you see another wine cask experience.
Yeah, like before the PX Chic, I've been thinking this was my number one GlenAllachie in a reasonable price range, not counting single casks.
Listen, it's a nice dram, but this wouldn't sell in Asia.
Why not?
It's too spicy.
Too spicy or
Too tannic.
It's too not enough sherry.
Not enough sherry.
not enough sherry. Can you really differ between the tastes of the world? What can you sell to South America, North America, Europe, Asia?
Yeah, you can, but you also can influence the world. And this is really interesting. I was in Vietnam, I think 4 months ago. I was in Vietnam. I'd been in China and Shanghai. Amazing. You know that I did a tasting for 600 people. The age group was between 25 and 40, and the mix was 50-50 male-female. And the disposable income, huge. 25 million people in Shanghai area. Every one of them looked to be pretty well heeled. But Vietnam in particular, here's a country that should hate us. They should absolutely hate the West. Booming. We can't supply enough into Vietnam, and they're knowledgeable. They're not drinking they're inquisitive. They're curious. They want to know more about whiskey in general, single malt in particular. Thriving country, young country, well-educated people, and they drink and they love whiskey. Yes.
What we know, because the sister of Bernd is living in Singapore, that they say that it's very hard to in contrary to Hong Kong. Before in Hong Kong there were some whiskey tastings, and they had the possibility to take part in some tastings. In Singapore they don't have this kind of tastings. That's why the man of his sister was very happy to be here, to have at home so many kind of whiskies, because he said, okay, the only kind of tasting we can do with special kind of whiskey, not the thing you get in the supermarket, is you go to private people, to private homes,
Sure.
To rich people, not? And they have this collection at home, and there you can do the tasting. Like for example, in Singapore, you don't have official whiskey tastings.
Probably not, but interestingly, on the way through Shanghai and Vietnam, I did a tasting in Singapore. It's about 500 people, and I mean it was fascinating. They totally curious.
What's with China? Because I think when the China market will go open, there's a lot of money and there's a lot of people who spend a lot of money to luxury. So it will change the market for whiskies, I think. Also for single malts.
Look, China's a good market. It doesn't appear to have been affected by the headwinds that Europe has been affected by. It's complicated, but what's interesting, certainly interested me was the demographic of the people who were attending, the young people with serious disposable income, because it was a trade show and they were selling in the trade show. They weren't shy about spending money. I think one of the reasons is that buying property in China is not easy. And so people still rent, so they've got a lot of disposable income. Singapore, though, is interesting because Singapore essentially sells into Malaysia and Indonesia. And what else?
Such things, otherwise there's nothing left for the German market.
No, there's always plenty for the German market. German market's a great market. For us anyway, it's a great market. But the world's changing, it's fantastic. And in Indonesia, what's the population of 150 million? Muslim by culture, maybe sometimes not by behaviour, and that'll be an interesting opportunity in the future.
There's a lot of young people with a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because a lot of investment bankers and everything is in Singapore now. They have to change from Hong Kong to Singapore, because in with the Chinese.
Yeah.
Politics is not possible to do this kind of.
Hong Kong's complicated. Malaysia's interesting. It's a good market.
And how do you look upon the new distilleries opening in China, like Nine Rivers and stuff like that? Do you think, given that they are based in the national and they might, maybe, who knows, it happens with cars, get some kind of a boost from the government, as it is in China, you might be pushed a bit out of the market because there's going to be a supply that's been created within the region?
We're confident.
Excellent sales.
It's very good, actually. It's a very good draft.
Any more questions? They still behave well, don't they? After 6 whiskeys, they behave well.
Remarkable. They've got a couple of soon. This is very good whiskey. I need to revisit my thinking about that.
But still, I would go for that one.
Oh, sure. Every day. Okay, shall we move on? What is this one, Peter?
Chicken single barrel 61.9.
Oh, that's good.
If you're still able to take 1 or 2 drums, it was a very clear yes. Now we go up in volume, so it's 61.9. But as I know Billy, he still would recommend to drink it neat, no water. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guess right.
No. Anyway, no cologne water. Cologne water is really bad. Yeah. It's very hard water and a lot of what is kalk?
Lime.
This guy knows about kalk very well. No? Salt. Kali, not kalkman, Kaliman.
Salt.
He's an engineer for mining, salt mining.
Do you know, it's interesting story about German engineering. I was doing a tasting in Mongolia in the city of Ulaanbaatar, and the journey was Edinburgh to Berlin, Berlin to Moscow. Thankfully, we didn't have to go off the plane in Moscow and on to Ulaanbaatar. The plane was full, and it was a time when Rio Tinto and the Mongolian government were opening the new copper nickel mine in Mongolia, full of German engineers. No British engineers on the plane, only German engineers. Amazing. And you should be proud because you're the only nation in Europe that still has a really strong engineering industry.
Not anymore.
Well, better than most.
At least 2 are sitting here.
Yeah, amazing. What a shitty place though.
Could be worse.
Oh, Ulaanbaatar is just a shitty place. Dear. There were holes in the road that you could lose a Sherman tank.
I really liked the place as I was there, but I talk about the reasons maybe tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, for example. Good, next whiskey, single cask. And this, yeah, you can pour. You can pour in here. Yeah. Single cask and only chinkapin.
Oh!
And yeah. Oh, full one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Small. Thank you.
It's fantastic.
Oh, Peter, it's fantastic.
Hmm?
Ah, look at this. Nice.
So this is a single barrel.
Yes.
10 years old, GlenAllachie.
Yes.
Did you mature it for 10 years?
No, not in this cask. We took it from one cask, from an American barrel, and we put it into this cask. It's been there for about 5-6 years.
Okay. 5-6 years. Yeah. It's a fantastic drum.
Fantastic drum.
Yeah. Fantastic.
You already set?
So single barrel, single chinkapin barrel, you would not get that from any other place in Scotland at the moment, but from GlenAllachie. Am I right?
I think you're right, yes. But this one started life, it was a single cask. It started life in an American barrel, and after 3-4 years, it was transferred into a chinkapin cask. And in many ways, it's nice that we have this single cask because it kind of reinforces a lot of the things I was saying about the Cintiche combination with chinkapin and PX. But what this one will showcase is the really powerful, unique characteristics that a chinkapin cask delivers flavour-wise. Good, strong herbal notes. You're going to pick up some licorice, some coconut, some anise.
Slange.
But uniquely, if you spoke to the industry, what would their expectation be from this type of cask? What are they nervous about? Probably the licorice notes. If you're picking up licorice and anise, a little bit nervous about that. It's not in their territory. But it's... This is chinkapin 100%.
Oh, 100%.
It's a single barrel.
Yeah, sometimes it's required for it's 100%. Yeah, it's quiet here and loud.
Are you picking up these notes? Yeah. Different, interesting.
When did you first time think about chinkapin oak? So trying to mature whiskey in chinkapin oak?
I used to have a really good working relationship with a guy called Andrew Russell at Speyside Cooperage. And he was always curious and inquisitive. And he had, this goes back a long time, he had taken in a batch of Chinkapin and he couldn't persuade anybody to try it. I said, okay, it's no problem, let's look at it, let's see where the journey goes, and we'll follow it. We'll follow it religiously every 3 or 4 months and see how it develops, what the sweet spots are, how long we can keep it in the cask. And the reality is that you come to one sweet spot, leave it, comes to another sweet spot, leave it, and on the journey goes. The flavours are a bit narrow as a single cask, but in terms of intensity, it's beautiful.
Without mic, it's difficult.
But it's kind of an example of taking one of the components of the Sintiche, the kind of the Chinkapin PX, taking that out and just showcasing it in its own right. This is what it delivers.
So this could have been one of the casks entering the Sintiche.
It would one of the family that might have gone into the Sintiche, yes.
No, also from age and more or less how long.
I think this is.
This is 10 years old.
It's around about the same age.
No,
yeah.
no, it's 12 years old. 12, yeah. 12.
But it's been in the cask, you know, significant period of time. It's displaying all the things that I would expect to see from a Chinkapin cask: herbal notes, hints of licorice, other kind of spicy notes, and in the background there's some kind of honey, butterscotch. Nice combination, but narrow. It's quite narrow.
Do you know if they use the Chinkapin oak for the bourbon production?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
They hate it. They hate it. It's not sweet enough. There is another American oak, and I mentioned it earlier, and this will definitely be part of the Sintiche series, called Gariana, and it's grown up near the Seattle area, just near the Canadian border. Characteristics are everything you think you see in Scottish oak, in Chinkapin, and in Ozark oak. It's amazing, but they're so difficult to get. The Americans hate selling them to us. But that's coming along nicely, and maybe the next time I'm here, that's an experience you'll be able to share about wonderful, absolutely wonderful casks.
Now we're talking.
Would you, honest question, would you recommend now maybe a drop of water or still?
Oh, Peter.
No, just asking.
Absolutely different.
Yeah, completely different.
Completely.
We usually don't add water, but we added some water. First I had blackcurrant, and I added 2 drops of water. Now it's cocoa and dark chocolate. It's completely different.
Oh, it'll change. Yeah, listen.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do it. You know, it's there is no rule book about how you drink whiskey. All we will say is when we put the whiskey in the bottle, we think it should be comfortable in the palate.
So you need a little bit more longer time to empty a bottle in the evening than the 12-year-old.
Just start earlier. Yes, very good.
It's a good one, yeah. Yeah, very good. A general question: what do you think we're looking forward to the whiskey industry in general? What can we expect in the next years? Will prices drop? Not your prices don't have to drop because they're anyway very reasonable.
things.
will we have a bigger variety even, or do you think some distilleries might vanish?
I think sadly that there will be some casualties. Recording.
It's just the internet, so nobody cares.
Look, you have to be in this industry for the right reason. If you go into the industry just to make money, you're in the industry for the wrong reason. You should be in the industry to change where we're going, to raise the bar quality-wise. And that's a challenge, and it's a responsibility indeed for most of the private distillers, because as I said earlier, the big companies are so obsessed with retaining consistency that, it's difficult for them to move out into the left and right wing and do things that are different. So the challenge to do things differently and explore and excite and create new experiences, that's down to the private companies. The problem is the adverse is also true, that if you start bringing things too young to the market, then you start redefining what the market is, and you can end up in a place where you don't want to be. Cheers. It's not where we are, by the way. We're focused on doing interesting things, and in the pipeline there's lots and lots of interesting things. So the journey is, you're never at the end of the journey. In fact, I think I said earlier, we have to decide whether we bought a train for the express train or for the scenic route, and I think, thankfully, we're on the scenic route.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. The last drop. It's empty.
That didn't last.
It's empty. From the cuvée.
It's very good. Okay.
We, of course, also have a peated whiskey tonight. And this is the only whiskey that's 100% produced from GlenAllachie since you took over.
Correct.
Which is a little bit different to the others.
Yeah.
So longer maturation and different cut points and peated. October 2025, the new release.
So why did we decide to do a peated style of whiskey from GlenAllachie? I tried something similar at GlenDronach, and I didn't have time to make it work. So it was kind of it was a sore that had to be scratched. But we wanted to differentiate what we were producing from Islay whiskey, and Islay whiskey is uniquely differentiated because of its, of course, phenolic smoky notes, but medicinal notes. We didn't want actually to have a whiskey that showcased medicinal notes. So the plan was, and always the plan, to use not peat from the island, but peat from the mainland. Now, what is the difference? I don't know if you've been to Islay, but there are no trees on the island. Remarkably, there are no trees on Islay. So the composition of the peat that they use in Islay is heather, grass, herbs, seaweed, particularly seaweed, which gives you the iodine notes. So we didn't want that. We wanted to use mainland peat from St. Fergus peatry, which is essentially the decomposition of trees. It's a much sweeter peat, and totally doesn't have the medicinal notes that the Islay whiskey. So we also knew that, as I said earlier, we wanted to release at the right time where the experience would be full-bodied experience. So it had to be somewhere between 5 and 8 years. And because we were very comfortable with it at 5 years, we decided to release a 5-year-old, and we weren't embarrassed putting the age statement 5-year-old on it, because it tells you a story about this is a fairly boomfy peated style of whiskey. What are you going to taste in this? Of course, I think we're bottling at 48. It's a turbo 50. The ppm, we told the malts that we wanted, in the barley we wanted ppm somewhere around about 250 to 300. So that in the spirit we would get, in this particular one, we would get somewhere between 60 and 80 ppm of phenols. So the kind of smokiness you're getting here is classically cigar smoke. It's tobacco leaves. Of course, it's phenolic. It's got all the other kind of characteristics you expect from a peated whiskey, but it's minus the medicinal notes. So the ppm is around about 60, 68 ppm in this. How did we get 68 ppm? We have another series in this. We do a chinkapin, we do a sherry, and we do, I think, a conventional American style cask, which is around about 32 ppm. But we wanted to make quite a big, impactful peat. So we took a lot of samples where in the distillate where the phenols were concentrating, and we took a fairly significant cut from there. There's not many of this turbo release. So I know it's sadly quite difficult to get, but in terms of the taste and the flavour experience, you're going to get all the kind of classical smoke, tobacco leaves, all of that. You're going to get layers of butterscotch, honey, vanilla, all of that, and it will stand as a kind of standard style of peated whiskey from the mainland. I hope you enjoy it. It's as I say, we're not embarrassed to say it's a 5-year-old, and we'd like to bring an 8-year-old out, because we think somewhere in that territory is where it's all happening for peated whiskey. After that, it becomes more benign, it's more relaxed, it's developing other characteristics that maybe kind of dominate the peated notes. But hey, this will be a first for you. Mikkel Tor Turbo.
Is there a reason why you do not name it GlenAllachie?
Yes, because GlenAllachie is non-peated.
Some distilleries have peated whiskey also do not have another name for it, like GlenDronach.
GlenDronach is also an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
You make an 8-year-old peated whiskey.
Well, I think it confuses. I have to say, Mikkel Tor is flying. As a category and as a product, it's flying. Oh.
I have one peated bottle from GlenDronach. I think it's from you.
Yeah, I've still got some of the peated GlenDronach.
8-year-old peated
Yeah.
GlenDronach.
It's actually very nice.
One I drank, and one I have in my
Library. Oh.
The Cuvée cask is very nice, but what I love is the
Sauterne. That's very good.
Yeah, I drank 2 bottles and one in my library.
No, it's very good. It's very good.
It's very, very nice.
Ich habe noch anderen.
It's nice whiskey.
Danke, danke. Wirklich danke.
Peter.
Da, schnell.
Since this is the second batch of the turbo, is there any significant difference which you realized between batch 1 and batch 2? Or except for getting for a
Vorne
slightly higher.
Flaschen mit Zettel, so mein Name draufsteht, die sind ernst gemeint.
There's no conscious. There's no conscious reason to try and identify a difference. It was repeating the same. But of course, because of the way we actually capture the turbo, it's going to be different because it is a little bit hit and a miss. We need to know where the phenols are concentrated, and they can be a little bit above and a little bit below. And of course, the whiskey is getting a little, although it says 5, it's probably a little bit older.
So, but no intentional differences where you said, okay, we have to adjust it for this or that reason.
No. The difference, any difference we create is a natural difference that we will be comfortable with. Interesting.
It's quite a time ago that I had the turbo from last year, so difficult to compare. What's the difference? What would you say? What's the difference?
I would say the differences are not significant. The style is in the same orbit, the same ether, and you know it's a kind of class of release that if there is a difference, we really don't care. It's representing itself as that's a release at that particular time in that particular production series. It's repeating again. We are not obsessed with, in fact, we'd be embarrassed to make the same thing constantly. There has to be difference. The way we operate the business, there has to be difference. It's the natural way of the world.
Is it sherry cask? I think so.
It's a sherry cask, yes.
So,
peat and sherry actually live very comfortably together.
So when you do the turbo, you have to choose malted barley with a certain amount of peat. You said 86 ppm.
No, we're kind of in control of that, Peter. We have a relationship with the malt, so it says we go to the supplier of the peat. We don't want dry peat, we want wet peat. People are under the misapprehension that peat is actually used to dry the malted barley. No, it's not. Peat is used, it's wet peat is used to create a kind of steamy vapour that's full of peated phenolic products that are then absorbed easily into the kernel of the malted barley. And of course, the longer you actually run with this wet peat and infusing it into the malted barley, the more that you can actually raise the level of phenols in the malted barley. So our relationship with the maltster is that we tell the peatery the style we want, how wet we want it to be. We tell them how long they should actually infuse the malted barley, and we want to be around about 300 ppm. And then we can decide the cut we want to take ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we are kind of in control of what we're doing.
And do you have to clean the distillery before you do not only the non-peated version, but if you when you do the lesser peated version?
We have to clean after it.
Yeah, after it, of course. Yeah.
We're not too precious about cleaning before it, but we definitely have to clean after it. And for quite a long time.
But that's a lot of effort for just a quite small batch.
I'm sorry?
So there's not going to be like these curious casks where you didn't really clean it and you just do the very mildly peated version.
No. We have a very distinct cut-off point, and it'll take about 2 weeks to clean the system. So you might, if you're going to do it, you might as well do a reasonably significant run.
But maybe in 10 years you have a curiosity cask which suddenly was peated or not.
Yeah, like We're always very curious. Look, this is left field. Doing a Speyside peated whiskey is left field, but the objective was to demonstrate. Look, you can do this. You can make a very interesting peated style of whiskey that is non-medicinal and might appeal to some of the people who are less convinced about Islay peated whiskey. Did I say that properly? Did I offend them?
No, not at all.
What do you think? It's interesting.
A friend of mine, he put it this way: you drink this kind of whiskey, you put the glass in the dishwasher, and the next day you put the dishwasher. You get this lovely taste of peated smoke, and this is why this is free.
That's how it is, you know. Getting rid of peated whiskey, getting rid of the influence in the vat or the lines takes a long time. I would imagine getting rid of it in a dish cleaner could be quite a challenge. But why would you want to?
So, after 3 hours of tasting, I would say last round of questions. If someone have an interesting question. Someone? It can also be a not so interesting question.
Basically, when you release your special range 2027, when you do a special release party or something? Can we book in for a day special day? Because we're all interested.
For 600 other people.
What?
A road trip.
What a good idea.
Huh?
Yeah.
Listen.
On the other hand, if you're still looking for project managers.
Okay. We'll talk later. Well, listen, it's a good idea. Listen, we will recognise that moment in time when we bring what we have created 100%, and not just we also the relationship we have with local farmers, how they've contributed. We'll have a wee Scottish party.
We'll book a road trip.
It's dangerous. We will recognise it. Listen, by the way, there are no stupid questions, only stupid answers.
So that's your last chance for a non-stupid question.
In future, would it be an older version of the Mikkeltor?
Will there be other versions?
An older version of Mikkeltor? Mikkeltor?
Yeah, that's a likelihood. Yes, there is Mikkeltor that's maturing away that is older than 5 years. Yeah, maybe 10, 12.
Mike, last question.
Well, we saw that on the market throughout Europe. Mikkeltor Turbo went away, right, from the 2024. Do you have more bottles prepared for the 2024?
I think that it will be 2026 before there is another turbo.
I'm glad I got the ticket.
Good, so if there is no other question, I would say our tradition is to find out which was, in your opinion, the best whiskey of tonight. You all know the system. You all can vote. You all have 3 votes, but you only can place 1 vote per whiskey. And we had 8 whiskies. And we will start
in order of appearance.
So we will start at the beginning. And I would like to ask you if you would like to give one of your 3 votes to the first whiskey that we had tonight. So I guess everybody is drunk already. The first whiskey tonight we had was a GlenAllachie 9-year-old Fino, and this is the one I have in my hand. So who would like to vote for the GlenAllachie 9-year-old Fino? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I tried to remember it, but maybe someone in the background is doing a list. 12. Second whiskey we had tonight was the GlenAllachie 10-year-old cask strength. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. After that we had the award winner, GlenAllachie 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let me double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. So 11, 12, 13. And after that, we started with the Syntage series. First one. No.
Who is drinking already?
No. I'm always right. We started with the Syntage series. Syntage. With the Syntage series, and the first one was Syntage 1, Chinkapin and Pedro Jimenez. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23.
Still votes left.
After that we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. And after that we had the wine cuvée, which goes to wine cuvée. Not a winner tonight. After the wine cuvée we had the GlenAllachie single cask Chinkapin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And last but not least, we had the Michael Thor. I'm always bad with this names. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. GlenAllachie single cask was how many? Just GlenAllachie single cask?
18.
Oh, 18. So then we have.
Here we have the numbers. Here we have the names.
We have three. No, we have three whiskeys. We have three whiskeys which won the bronze medal. Two whiskeys that have the bronze medal. Two whiskeys that have the bronze medal, and this is with 18 votes each. GlenAllachie single cask Chinkapin, and on the other side the Michael Thor Turbo, 5 years old. 18 votes for that. And then we had as silver medal winner Syntage number 1, Chinkapin Oak and Pedro Jimenez. and a very clear winner gold medal tonight, which is Vintage number 2, Scottish Virgin Oak and Oloroso Sherry. Thank you for voting. So this is now the end of the tasting, and as you know, everything is having an end, but the German Wurst. That's a very old joke. Thank you for being all here. Before you all stand up and take pictures, let's thank Billy for being here. And the next applause will be for convincing him to come next year again. So, thank you for being here, and that's the end of for tonight. And do you want to have a last word, Billy?
Only it's been great to be back in Germany. Germany's it's a really important market for single malt whiskey. Consumers are really informed and they're interested, curious. It's just great to be in Germany. It's nice to be with an audience who are prepared to actually engage with you and listen and enjoy the whole experience. And you've had fun, I've also had fun, so thanks for coming.
Thank you. And of course, thank you to the team, and thank you to Klaus, who recorded this first time online.